Have you ever heard that basketball is a game of runs? Well, what a run is, how to recognize a run, how to stop a run when you're on the bad side of one, is a really big source of frustration and sometimes confusion for both players and coaches. So today, we're going to talk about runs. We're going to talk about maybe those discussions that you're having between players and parents on the way home from a game where you say, coach was kind of crazy tonight. I'm just telling me one thing one time and another thing another time, and I'm kind of confused. We're going to talk about how runs might be the source of that confusion and how to clear up that confusion. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Heart Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So today we are talking about runs. And speaking of the love between coaches and players, believe it or not, runs or a misunderstanding or really not recognizing when runs are happening and when you're on the right side of a run versus the wrong side of a run, which we're going to cover today, that's the source of contention between a lot of coaches and players. And so we want to clear that up. We want you to have a great relationship with your coach and have knowledge of the game that's going to help you, win games and be, the type of player that recognizes things like runs and coaches love. So today we're going to talk about that, but there's a lot of confusion. I mean, how many times, for instance, how many times have you ever thought to yourself, coach is just kind of crazy. They're inconsistent, because we're talking about a shot that I took, and one time I came off the court and the coach is high-fiving me. That's a great shot. And is it because it went in, it was a great shot? Or then another time I'm coming off they put me on the bench and going, why would you take that shot? That was a horrible shot. I don't understand. It's the exact same shot. Well, that's one of the things we might clarify a little bit for you today. But speaking of those scenarios and shots, I do want to mention I am working on a training. I'm considering just kind of giving this training away. You tell me if this would be a good idea. This training that I'm working on is on becoming a better shooter through working on your shot selection and how to really work on your shot selection, get better at your shot selection, and recognize how to do that. So I'm working on this training. It's not completed yet. I'm probably about halfway through right now. I'm really excited about it, but I want to know how excited you are. So put a comment below if that's something you'd be interested in. And, like I said, I'm thinking about just giving it away. So if I do, I'll be sure to kind of put you on my list of getting it to you. Just put a comment below just saying, yep, interested. Shot selection training would be great, or something like that. You put that comment below, or go to the website, heartsmarttogether.com, and put a comment in there. And I'll be sure to get you that training if that's something that could be useful to you. So, runs. I think it's really important to talk about what a run is. And sometimes people call it a run. Some people might just refer to runs as momentum, because runs are the source of momentum. And the longer a run goes on, the greater the momentum for either team, depending on if you're on the right side of a run or on the wrong side of a run. So let's give a definition of a run, so we're all on the same page, because a common theme in today's talk is you need to be on the same page as a team, coaches, players, on the floor, off the floor, when it comes to runs. So let's give you a definition of what a run is. A run is whenever a team scores 2 consecutive baskets without a response, without a scoring response from the other team, that's a run. 2 baskets. Not 3, not 5, not 10, not 20. Now, those are all runs, but let's talk about what a run is. A run is any 2 consecutive baskets. Now, when it gets to those 3, 5, 10, 20, those are long runs, and the momentum builds the longer a run goes. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of runs. You want to be on the good side of runs because, like they say, basketball is a game of runs. And so it's really important to recognize when you're on the wrong side. So we're going to talk about 3 things this week that people think end runs but do not end runs. So I'm going to cover those, and then I'm going to cover how do you really stop a run when you're on the wrong side of it. So why do I say it causes conflict between coaches and players? Because I gave you that scenario in shooting a good shot versus a bad shot, and why it's a different shot at different times of the game. But also coaches, because they've been in the game for so long, they tend to recognize runs. Okay, they recognize runs as soon as they happen. As soon as those 2 consecutive possessions happen where, or 2 baskets in a row happen and you're on the wrong side of a run, a coach recognizes that. Now, what they are not always great at is pointing them out to their team immediately. And they're not always great at immediately conveying how that's going to change what you're doing on the floor, how you're playing, your approach to that game at that very moment. Okay, they're not always great at that, but believe me, they know what a run is. They feel it. They feel that momentum the minute it happens. The longer it goes, not only does the momentum build for the other team, but let me tell you something. The stress level for your coach, the anxiety for your coach builds at the same time. So what we don't want is them recognizing there's a run, you as a player on the floor not recognizing it. And another bad scenario is you recognize it as a player, your coach recognizes it as a player, but 3 other players on the court don't recognize it, and they're still playing like maybe you're on the good side of a run, like you've just scored 10 consecutive baskets, or like there's no such thing as runs, and they're not recognizing and not making those adjustments. So you don't want to, you're on the bad side of a run and you're coming down the court and you see a player up ahead and you pass it on the break and they pull up for a 3 and it clanks off the back of the rim and you're like, what are you doing? The coach is like, what are you doing? And that causes conflict. So it's important for everybody to be on the same page when it comes to runs and your team. So you need to communicate that. So what are these 3 things that everybody thinks stops a run but doesn't stop a run? Well, have you ever been watching a movie? You're watching a movie and you're like, I gotta go get some more popcorn, or I gotta go get a drink, or the phone's ringing. Pause. Okay? What happens when you come back from the refrigerator, when you come back from the kitchen, when you get off that call and you press play again? You're in the exact same spot of that movie. The movie didn't change. It just paused. So one of the things that people think stops a run is timeouts. Get a timeout. Stop the momentum. No, it pauses the run and it pauses momentum. Now, timeouts are not bad for a coach now saying, hey, we need to change the way we're playing right now in order to stop this run and give the reminders to their team and make sure everybody's on the same page. It's good for that. But if you're prepared, you don't even need that timeout if everybody's on the same page. But the timeout itself does not stop a run. It does not stop momentum. Momentum continues, and the run might continue when you're on the other side of the timeout. So timeouts don't stop runs. What else doesn't stop runs? The end of quarters, the end of halves. How many times are you just waiting? We just got to get out of this half. It's just horrible. We just can't score. They're on a run. The half can't come quick enough. Well, again, you can make adjustments at halftime, but the half itself doesn't stop the run. It doesn't stop the momentum, and there's no reason that you can't identify what's going on and make adjustments on the court before half gets there. You need to stop that run on the floor, okay? So it's really important to recognize those are two things that people think stop runs. Get a timeout. Oh, halftime's here. Neither one do. What's the last one? Especially fans are big on this one for this will stop a run. Shoot your way out of it. Just get shots up. Get shots up, especially, let's get a big three. Let's answer. Let's answer with a big three of our own. Let's answer with a quick shot. Let's just keep getting shots up, and eventually one will go in and we'll stop the run. But that's not really the best way to stop a run. In fact, that will drive your coach crazy. I'm guaranteeing you, if you're taking quick shots, that probably is helping the other team's run. If you're making, if you're gambling on defense, things of that nature, that's not stopping a run. So shooting your way out of a run is not the way to stop a run either. There's three ways that doesn't stop the run. So what does? You have to make a deliberate change on the court on the way you're playing, and that's by adjusting your tempo. Now, I did a tape, a couple months ago, a few months ago. You can go back and look, all about tempo and, who benefits from a fast tempo versus a slow tempo. But great teams can adjust tempo on the fly. Great teams can recognize things like runs when you're on the bad side of a run and the good side of a run, and they adjust their tempo accordingly. Okay? So what do I mean by adjusting tempo? Just a quick synopsis is, adjusting tempo, if you're on the wrong side of a run, you need to really get in lockdown defense, not gamble, not get out and press and trap and do all those things that might get that run for the other team even, longer. You need to play lockdown defense and make the other team work in order to score. You need to extend that defensive possession. You need to make them work for the hardest shot that they can get. Okay? And finish that defense with a rebound. Extend your defensive possessions. On the flip side, on your offensive possessions, you need to extend your offensive possessions by looking for the absolute best shot you can. This is the time to get the highest quality shot you can, not that quick three on the break that coach was pulling their hair out over, or your teammates were, right? This is the time to look for great shots. This is the time to run your best plays and to get a layup, to get an uncontested shot, to get a great shot. Not a bad shot, not a good shot, but a great shot. And yes, the very same shot that I'm saying is a bad shot when you're on the wrong side of a run, the flip side goes for when you're on a good side of a run. That is the time that maybe you want to do a little bit more gambling on defense, maybe trap a little bit more, get the tempo built up, shorten the possessions, maybe take a quicker shot, maybe take that three on the break. Okay? Maybe not be so picky in your shot selection. That's not saying to take bad shots. That is saying that you have to, maybe you're not as concerned because momentum's on your side. Maybe you've scored 4, 5 baskets in a row. And so coach is not going to think about that same shot the same way. And that's why it's been so confusing. So now you see, runs. Oh, we're supposed to play a little differently when we're on the bad side of a run and when we're on the good side of a run. Maybe we want to slow the tempo a little bit or speed up the tempo a little bit, depending on which side of a run you're on. So hopefully that clears up the confusion that you might have had when it came to runs. You have a very clear definition now. Any 2 baskets in a row from either team without it being answered with a score from the other team is a run, okay? You can recognize it right away. The longer that run goes, the more momentum builds, the more frustration and anxiety your coach is going to have. And you need to start communicating with your coach about what you need to do in order to end that run. What type of shots you need to take, what kind of defense you need to play. Okay? I want you to have these discussions with your coach. I mean, it's going to open up a whole new relationship between you and your coach talking about runs, and when they see, they recognize what's happening on the court, and you're like an extension of your coach on the floor. That's what makes you a smart, confident player. That's why coaches love those kind of players. So hopefully this cleared up some confusion. Hopefully this helped you when it comes to understanding, recognizing, and adjusting for runs. And until next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.